Okay, we were talking about battleship stuff. Oh, good, bro. Okay, so if you look at the Vermont, this is the U.S. heavy line. U.S. heavy line, if we look at continuous, within 2 kilometers, 70%, that's, 280, 300 damage, give or take, 300 DPS. Within 3.5, 75% of that, that's more, that's, 450? I mean, you got some severe amount of DPS coming out in the medium and short range. Long range, not too great. Damage from shell explosions, you have 6. So realistic 75% of 6. So more likely you have 4 or 5 flak, which is not great. You do have a fighter, which could definitely be nice. It's a 4 fighter. 4 fighters strong, which would be pretty sexy. You do have defensive fire. So if you wanted to go AA-Spec, if you went with this mod and also took the auxiliary armaments, you would get 2 additional flak puffs out of this, which could actually be noticeable, because that would either give you the full salvo of 6 when you're firing, or it might give you the broken up salvo where you fire 6 and then have 1 or 2, fire 6 and then have 1 or 2. Dude, I don't care. So the increase in base damage is not going to be that big of a deal. Mostly it's about getting the additional flak, because most of your base damage is in the close range. So is that going to help against rocket planes? Not really. They're going to come in and they're going to drop. Is it going to help against tort planes? Not really. They're going to come in and they're going to drop. They're not going to linger in your short range, but it will help against bombers. Bombers are going to loiter in your medium to short range. That's where your AA DPS is going to shine the most. In terms of battleship stuff, if we look at the commander skills for battleships, all you really have are AA Gunner, which is going to increase your ship by 10%. You know, it's a 2-point talent, it's 10%. Realistically, you might have something else that's more interesting than that, but I mean, 10%, it's not small, but it's not great. Well, it is small. So, like, if you're doing 200 damage, you're doing 220 damage a second. So if you kill 2 planes coming in, you kill 2.2 planes. It adds up, but is it amazing? No, it's not amazing. Expert AA marksman, priority sector. When you get to priority sector, your sector is stronger on the buffed side. But if you look at the priority sector for a battleship, there's a 15-second duration, which means if you're being attacked and you pop priority sector, it's stuck over there for 15 seconds. They could come in, strike you, and be halfway through coming in for the second strike, assuming you don't deny the second strike. So you might end up locking yourself onto a side that you're not able to reinforce on the other, and when you do so, you pull 25% more off your weak side onto your strong side, which means your weak side is even weaker. I would probably end up using priority sector on a battleship more to protect other people, or if you know it's a one-way trip, if they're not going to have multiple drops. So the AA talents for the commanders on battleships are a little bit sus. It's not that they don't help, but they're a little bit sus. The Russian DD Kaba line. Okay, Khabrovsk has... It does not have defensive fire. If we look at its continuous, it has 70 damage out at range, 135 at 3.5, and another 35 in very close. It's not great AA. Damage from shell explosions, 4. 4 is not amazing. Now, if you've got 3 ships with 4, then you have 12 flak puffs. That's actually, that's some minigame aspect. That's some maze work that people have to fly through. But 4 by itself is not enough. So as long as the Kaba is operating with some other people, that might be enough. But he's not going to get additional flak from defensive fire off slot 6, because he doesn't have defensive fire, so there's no additional flak there. And in terms of commander skills, you only really have this, which gives you plus 10% AA, and your continuous is not great, so you would not spec that. I mean, you get some additional gun DPS, which is nice. And this Could give you +1 flak. More realistically, you get Adrenaline Rush, which is going to give you bonus continuous as you start getting beaten up, assuming your guns aren't dead. You would take this if you want the additional main battery reload. You are not an you are not a ship to AA-Spec in, so this would not be something you would go nuts about. Having an additional flak puff is cool. It does reduce your detectability range, but increases your reload, so you might end up taking this on the Kaba anyway, because the Kaba is probably spotted while it's shooting. British Light Cruiser line. So the British Light Cruiser line does actually have some pretty significant AA. I'll have to try to snip this out or something. If we look at the Minotaur, once again, we notice the Minotaur does not have defensive fire, but the Minotaur has specially buffed damn near 7 kilometer AA, which is not shit. It's 90% of 160, so it's like 144 DPS. Then when you get into the mid-range at 4 kilometers, it's a mean bitch. It's 550 DPS all the way out to 4 clicks. Not a joke, even more if you get in closer. That's a pretty effective AA blanket. Is it going to murder all the planes? No, but it's an effective AA blanket that's going to add a lot of pressure to a 14 kilometer diameter, you know, around wherever the hell the ship is, which can be anywhere because the Minotaur can smoke. Now, if you take radar, it's going to be a little different. But yeah, Slow Juice slot 6, a radar, a Minotaur. You don't have defensive fire, so you're not getting the additional flak, but your base values are not a joke. So buffing the base values by 15% is not a joke. That's a personal choice. In terms of commander, you've got 2 talents. You've got AA Marksman, which is going to give you an additional flak puff as well as priority sector damage. This is better on cruisers. Why? Because you have 10-second action times. 10-second action time, if you shoot when somebody's at max range, by the time they've come in and struck you, the action time is done. And you're back in a preparation phase, which just 100% AA until you would activate priority sector again. This is much more conducive to being able to deal with single strikes and even potentially return strikes after. So this talent works out great for that because theoretically you're buffing the side you want to buff, and then you're not losing on the other side, because by the time they get over there, it's already down. And then plus 20%. Now on a battleship, 2 commander points got you plus 10, and a cruiser, 4 commander points get you plus 20. So it's the same equivalency, but 10% and only 10% can be cute, but you have to look at what is it going to get you. 20% is more. It can be significantly more, especially when you stack this, on top of whatever, on top of priority sector. This actually becomes much more capable. Now, what are you going to give up for it? Are you going to give up gun power? Are you going to give up range? You're going to give up something. That's a personal choice. But could you spec into a Minotaur to kind of like lock down an area? Sure, you absolutely could. And then lastly, the Royal Navy CV line. You would never AA-Spec. You would never really AA-Spec a carrier, but just for the sake of examination, if we take this, and I think I could swap into this without blowing whatever. Demount, sure, fine. If we take concealment, and we take this, and we take hidden menace to reduce ship detection even further, then detection by range goes down by 8.6, 1.2, 1 point more. 8.6 time 10% of 8.6 is 0.86. Half of again is that is 4.3, so 12.9. 1.29. So this would drop to 7.3. Still outside of your AA range, but I mean 7.3 aerial detect is not shit. And it would further drop your detection on the sea surface by 1.1 and half again, 1.65. So this would kick you down to like 9.9 surface detection. So you could actually seed yourself in with some battleships. But if we look at it, the continuous damage on this is probably the worst of the various carriers. Well, maybe not the Immelman. 88 damage out to 5.8. It's not too sexy. 457 and 3.5. 3.5 is a little close, so that's like when you're getting struck. or if you're blocking, you know, a strike target. So that's not going to be super great, and you only have 4 flak puffs, as opposed to like the midway, which is going to have quite a bit more, I believe, has 9. So you could use the Audacious to try to bolster and give additional support, but the only skill you're going to get that with is this, plus 10%. The base values are not that great. You probably wouldn't do that. Plus you're blowing 4 points into Hidden Menace if you even wanted to dick with that kind of stuff. And realistically, you don't have choices. You would have to take this, so you don't even have really a choice for this, plus you don't have defensive fire, and the base values aren't that great to begin with. So would you AA-Spec a CV, a British CV? No. Could you fighter spec a British CV? Yes. But AA-Spec? No. So long response to a condensed question, I guess. So my apologies if that just kind of like ran on forever, but that is the answer to your question.